First of all, introducing our challenger.
Out of the blue corner.
He's going to step in and he does. It's all over.
Let's bring on the boom.
This is Eternal MMA.
Mixed martial arts fans, welcome back and thank you for joining me once again on the Eternal Insiders Podcast back for 2023. My name's Luke and as always, I'm your host. And joining me in today's video, not only the man with maybe the coolest nickname in all of Australian mixed martial arts, but also the man that'll be headlining against Diego Pereira at Eternal 75, May 6 on the Gold Coast. I'm talking, of course, about Jesse, the funky Cold Medina, maybe for the second time I'm doing this. Jesse, how you doing today, brother? Thanks for joining me on the show. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Thanks for having me. Feeling good, ready for this fight.
Jesse's being a very good sport here. We just had a minor recording hiccup, so we're playing it off again like we're not doing this for the second time, but here we are rattling out maybe through the same couple of questions. But as I was asking you before, Jesse, the play on the nickname, the Funky Cold, give us a bit of an insight in terms of where you first got that nickname from, a bit of a generational gap there in terms of maybe what the reference is, but where did that nickname first come from for you?
So my coach, Mick Maloney, when I started training about 16 years ago, about 15, 16 years ago, I was about 16 years old, and at training, he called me Funky Cold, and I looked at him like, what are you talking about? Like, what? I didn't, and again, back being a young kid, I couldn't really say anything to him. It was after a couple of months. I'm like, what do you call me Funky Cold for? And then he was like, haven't you heard the song? And I'm like, mate, I've got no idea what you're talking about. And then he's like, oh, it's actually a song. And then I went back and listened to it. And yeah, it just stuck ever since. Become the fight name, fight walkout song. Like, it's just it just goes hand in hand, really.
It's stuck, mate. I mean, it rolls off the tongue. It's perfect. Right into that nickname, right into the surname, the Funky Cold Medina. For all the younger generation that don't know, you've got to get on that song. It's an absolute classic. Now, into the nitty gritty, we're 2 weeks out from the fight, less than 2 weeks out, I suppose. How is everything going in the lead up? How's the training going? How's the fight camp? How is all that good stuff in the lead up to the fight?
I'm feeling really good. I feel like we're ticking all the right boxes. So start off with strength and conditioning. Got Matty Cass, so he's like just smashing it. Just feeling fit, feeling strong. Conditioning's on point. Dietitian with the combat dietitian. So I just feel like I've got energy all the time, able to train harder, recover better. Got a physio now as well that's jumped on board, Fortitude Health. So again, just able to train that a little bit harder than usual. And then again, all the guys at mixed martial arts or Madrid martial arts, they're just pushing me to the next level. They're getting better. I'm pushing them. They're pushing me. We're all getting better. And again, I feel like we're just ticking all the right boxes. And this will be the fight where I can just demonstrate all my skills.
No, we're looking forward to seeing it, man. Now, this will be the fifth time that you've actually fought for Eternal MMA. We cast back to Eternal 9 back in 2015. Seems like forever ago seems like forever ago now. Does it seem like a long time for you? Like, what do you remember about that experience, getting that win?
That was good. I think that was against Garrett Cross.
It was against Garrett Cross, rear naked choking round 1, I believe.
Yeah, that was my first main event. I reckon that might have been my fourth pro fight. That was good. It was a good atmosphere. Like, I've always loved fighting for Eternal as well, and it's a good. Always going to the Gold Coast. It's just a good excuse to get away and actually see the Gold Coast for one, and perform in front of a different crowd. So again, back then, I think that was at the Coolangatta Hotel back then. It was great. It was great atmosphere. It was just great to really do it, and I'm looking forward to doing it again.
Now, the promotion's come a long way, and it's always good to talk to the guys that were sort of back on those single-digit cards, back then, sort of where we were and where we sort of come to now. It's fantastic. I just want to talk a little bit about your experience. You're one of the most experienced guys, that we have in the country. Sitting at a record of 16 and 11, 27 pro fights all told. Sort of go back to that kind of 2015, 2016 period where you had a win streak of about 7 fights. And that sort of, as I'm sure, you're probably sure that you're sort of on that run now of a sort of lost win. I'm sure you're looking to get that win at Eternal 75 and get that streak sort of coming back. Like, is there anything that you sort of identified in particular, like what needs to change for you going forward, to get that run of green back, get that win streak going back again?
I feel like, again, like from that 2015, 2016, I think it was just like the skill gap was a lot different compared to what it is now, where back then, like, guys were good strikers, but it was sort of like the early UFC days where they might be good strikers, but I was just that level above in the jiu-jitsu side of things where I'd be able to take them down, tap them out, and it was game over. Where a lot of the guys are so much more well-rounded these days. They're good at striking, good at wrestling, good at jiu-jitsu, where they've really closed that gap and even nullified what I've been good at. With my fights, some of my fights I sort of come in there and I just feel really flat. And yeah, just sort of not nervous, just really feel flat on the night and everything. But since my last fight against Abdallah, I've worked with a sports psychologist that just changed my preparation for the fights. And again, when I fought Rodolfo in my last fight, that just really all come to fruition, and hoping to move that, keep that same mindset and get a few wins in play.
No, a big knockout win against Adolfo Marquez. I mean, talking about experienced fighters, I know he's had the losses sort of in his record recently, but who more experienced than Adolfo Marquez, right? So a big win there to set you up going forward, as I'm sure looking for that big win against Diego Pereira. And just on that point, you're a very active fighter. You fought a virtual who's who of who's on offer here in this country.
Yeah.
You fought twice against Jack Jenkins, former title challenger, former title holder that you've challenged him for his belt for, and you have a win against him. Guys like Jamie Malarkey, two guys that are now in the UFC. Guys like Jack Becker, a former title holder in his own right. You talk about names like Raja Shippen you fought against, Aaron Blackie. Obviously, the win we just mentioned against Adolfo Marquez. Pretty safe to say that Jesse Medina is just a guy that's active and he takes all comers.
Yeah, 100%. And even pretty much all the internal champions that have pretty much held the belt, featherweight title holders. I fought Ryan Gray. He was a former internal title holder. Miles Simpson, former internal title holder. Garrett Gross, he held the internal title for a little bit as well. And I think the only one who I haven't actually fought has been Justin, the current title holder, and Michael Tobin. They're literally the only internal title holders I actually haven't competed against. So yeah, it's pretty much fought everybody that I can just always put the hand up. If a lot of people don't take fights early in my career, I was just whoever was available, I'm just trying to fight them.
No, I know the guys at Eternal, they love the guys that will sort of, take all comers and put their hand up whenever they're sort of ready to go. You sort of look back at that time as well. I know everyone sort of went through the COVID period. Every fighter in every gym sort of had that period where they weren't able to train, weren't able to compete. I know you were sort of dealing with some injuries there as well. Of course, the COVID sort of situation's now behind us for the most part. Are the injuries behind you? I know no fighter is ever coming in with an absolute 100% clean bill of health, but are the major injuries behind you looking forward?
Yeah, so again, it's probably I would have loved to be a bit more active in the last few years. I think I only had one fight last year, which was a loss. The year before, I think I just only had one fight then as well. So I'm hoping this year is going to be an active year. This is my second fight for the year, already in talks for a few more. So I'm just hoping to make that just active streak and literally push for that number one spot in Australia.
I want to talk a little bit more about that, just to your point about potentially setting yourself up as a number one contender for, belts in the future. But I just want to ask a little bit about the gym that you're at. Now, you're at Mildura Martial Arts, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, so you're sort of down rural, that's sort of kind of down my neck of the woods in Victoria, but a little bit of obscure in terms of where, fighters might typically train. We know a lot of fighters like to, cut their teeth, sort of in their rural or their regional towns and head into the big city to sort of get more training. You talk a little bit about your gym, the guys you train with and how they set you up for success. And has there ever been any temptation to sort of, move your training elsewhere at all?
So I did have a few years off in Mildura, just trying another gym. Unfortunately, that didn't work out at the time. And now I'm back with the original gym I've been. Sort of with a family, it's sort of made it a bit hard to move away. Yes, it was tempting. And you sort of look at the guys that have really, really come through the ranks and just pushing really big. Say like Jack Jenkins, he's in Melbourne. He's got different gyms he goes to. I feel and he's in the UFC now, and that's sort of one of the big reasons he's been able to get that quality sparring, quality rounds, quality coaching in. So I feel like that sort of has put me a little bit behind the eight ball with competing with guys like that. For a rural town, I feel like we do really well, with our expertise and stuff. We've got the coach Mick Maloney, but we've also got professional fighters who've come out of Mildura, like Sam Hibbard. He's gone and he trains with Absolute now, but he was originally from Mildura. Some of the guys we've got at the gym at the moment, like Augustus McCallum, he's a jiu-jitsu world champion, brown belt, and he beat a black belt recently on the M16 Open, and a lot of amateurs coming through, like John Lockhead, Aiden Russell, Huss, and Paddy. Like, they're just some guys that are fighting at the amateur level. And even like Luis Flores, like, they just push me. When I first started, it was hard to get those quality guys in to push. But now I feel like we're coming up as a team together, and we'll hopefully take over that Australian MMA scene.
No, it sounds like there's a lot of good things coming out of that gym, man. Now, looking forward to the fight against Diego Pereira. This will be your third Eternal MMA main event. Of course, the last one you had against Jack Jenkins, unfortunately for yourself, didn't go your way. But in hindsight, and looking forward to this fight, just having that sort of experience not everyone gets, right? Like, not everyone gets to an experience in an Eternal MMA main event. Can you sort of lean on that experience going forward into this fight? Can you sort of take that sort of spotlight that you had? You've sort of been here, you've done that, you've had a lot of fights, on the big stage. Is that sort of something you can lean on going forward against a very experienced opponent like Diego Pereira?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like that. So all this, Diego's got a lot of skills that he brings to the table. But then I sort of like look back at it and go, okay, I've had 27 fights. He's not bringing anything that I'm not already used to, or I haven't fought before. So I feel that like this fight should get, like, will go in my favor. But that experience I've got, he's had a fair few fights as well. But I've just had that little bit more. And again, there's nothing that he's bringing to the table that I haven't already encountered in my career already.
No, he's a very experienced opponent, but as we said, you've got 27 fights, right? Like, do you see that playing a major factor, having that massive experience gap?
I don't see it as a major factor, because Diego, again, like, he's up and he's training with quality guys up there. He's been fairly active, like, for the last few years as well. So, and he's fought some big guys on promotions as well. I reckon he's had a few main events himself. He's fought Jack, he fought Justin recently as well. So I think I don't feel as the experience to be the major game changer in this fight.
Well, have a look at the things that might make the difference. Like, where do you sort of see the advantages for yourself against an opponent like Diego? Like, we know where Diego's dangerous. We know how well-rounded he is. But where's the danger come from for Diego when he faces you in the cage?
I feel so exactly what you said. Diego's pretty much good everywhere. He's not exceptional in any one area. He's just good, well-rounded, good at pretty much everything. I feel that, like, he might be underestimating my skills, and I haven't fully been able to showcase my stand-up side of things. Everyone knows me as more of a grappler, wanting to take it down. So I think he might be underestimating my skills and what I actually bring to the table. And if he does, I feel that's going to be his downfall.
Yeah, so we don't want to jump too far ahead, right? But you can't help but sort of cast your eyeballs forward a little bit further to Eternal 76. We got Justin Van Heerden versus Rod Costa for the Eternal featherweight title. You're a former title challenger yourself for the same belt. Is it fair to say that you might be sort of looking at that fight? You're very sort of looking what the outcome might be. You touched on the top of the conversation that you're sort of looking to cement yourself as a number one contender. How trained are your eyeballs in that fight in terms of the outcome? Would you like to see a win against Diego, slot your win to get the next fight against whoever the winner of that might be?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'll definitely be watching that fight. It's a good fight to watch anyway, especially for the fans. So, and you get Justin is number one. He's smashing the scene at the moment. So I feel that a win over Diego will put me in line for that number one shot. And also, Rod Costa is another fight I've been looking at for a while as well. He's an experienced guy and got respect for both of those guys as well. And they're just people that I want to share the cage with and just test my skills. So I'll be keeping a close eye on that one.
No, we'll all be keeping a close eye on it. We want to see the best fight the best, and you are one of the best. And we don't want to look too far ahead, but, looking at the fight with Diego, man, I'm not too sure if you're the kind of guy that likes to visualize how you might get the fight done, how you might get the job done. But if there was a particular way that you get your hand raised, how would you like to see yourself get your hand raised against Diego Pereira, May 6 on the Gold Coast for Eternal 75?
I'm always looking for a finish. I just think that hopefully whoever puts the pace first, but no one likes to leave it to the judges. I'm looking for a finish, whether it be a knockout or a submission. I just want that finish.
We all like seeing finishes, and I'm sure you're no different. Jesse, the funky Cole Medina, man, thanks so much for your time today. It's an absolute pleasure. Eternal 75, May 6 on the Gold Coast. A lot to look forward to there. A lot of title implications, of course, for Eternal 76 in that one. Jesse, we look forward to having you on the show, man. All the best, and we'll see you on the other side, my friend.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.